Yeah, I'm very intuitive, and I think, well, as the quantum physicists I mentioned before were also very intuitive, and I'm an academic at a much lower level, but I've been able to do a few creative things, and both of those have stemmed from a certain gut level place. In my line of research until recently, I retired officially a year ago, and I pretty much laid down this type of research 2 or 3 years ago. But I have done computational fluid dynamics, and that's using numerical simulation computers to model the flow of liquids and gases. And many, of course, engineering applications involve fluid flow, flows through jet engines, flows over wings, blood flow in the human heart. And of course, most flows are so complicated that computers aren't big enough and probably won't be big enough for generations or centuries. And so there's methods that one does to use less computer power at the expense of making some assumptions or modeling some things. And a few years ago, my gut level reaction to a particular method called large eddy simulation was that there was a flaw in it, although it's widely embraced. And the flaw had to do with, well, most people would not consider it a flaw, but my perception that there was a flaw gave me the impetus to go in a different direction. And in this method, if you can imagine sort of that a flow consists of big whirlpools and little whirlpools, and you subject it to a grating, and the grating is like a sieve, and the big whirls are retained in the sieve and the little ones pass through. And then what that allows you to do is to use less computer power because you're now focused only on these big whirlpools. So you lose some of the fine detail, but you focus on the big picture. My intuition was that there was a problem with making doing the filtering process in space, and that it would be more consistent if one did that in time. And so I developed an alternative technique that nobody has used except myself, but time filtering in large eddy simulation. But the interesting thing is there have been some nice spin-offs of this that other people have used in different contexts. But it's a long way to say that it all started with sort of a gut level feeling that this just doesn't make sense, but I couldn't put my finger on why it didn't make sense. And I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? It makes sense to everybody else. And I lived with that feeling, what's wrong with my perception, for about a year. And then finally I thought, no, there is a problem here. And I want to go in a different direction and see if I can get around that problem. So.